All right, gamification is all the rage in classes, especially when it comes to reviewing for tests, and it's kind of hard to do a lot of games in the digital world. So back in the spring when we suddenly went distance learning, and I still had an AP test to get my ninth graders ready for, I came up with a few versions of basically it's an escape room, but without all the bells and whistles. Okay, I was creating these to prepare my ninth graders for their human geography AP test, and I think they really seemed to enjoy it. The ones that they really bought into it. So I'm going to start out by showing you the finished product, what the kids saw, and then I'll show you how you make that. So I call this one Where in the World, and the idea was that I had picked a country in my head, and I had created questions about the different topics that we covered over the course of the year, the different units, and each correct answer was about that particular country. So at the end, the idea was that they would take all those correct answers, put them together, and figure out what country I was referring to. All right, so they were supposed to write down the correct answers as they went. So we started out by everybody in the group typed in their name. Okay, we were doing this in Zoom, and I sent them off into randomly selected breakout rooms. And when they got in there, they would put in their names and they were off. Okay, so for example, the first question was government. This country is divided into subnational states. Originally, those states had minimal power, but over time have gained more sovereignty. A country with a national government that shares power with its states is called blank. And so the three choices are there, and they had to pick one of these choices. Well, if they chose unitary, they would see that it was not a correct answer. If the answer was wrong, I tried to have some sort of a visual that would help them either by giving them the answer or guiding them towards the correct answer. So I gave them this to kind of look at. If they remembered what the question was about, obviously they know it's not unitary, it's got to be one of the other two, so maybe they could get something out of this visual to help them out. They click on next, it would take them back to the question. And so now they had to guess again. Well, hopefully they weren't guessing, hopefully they were making an educated decision here. They choose their answer, click next. Oh, they got it right this time. So ideally they would write down the word federal because that's their first clue. So the country that we're looking for at the end is a federal country. Then they move on to the next question, demographics. The mystery country is in early stage 3 of the demographic transition model. Which population pyramid belongs to the mystery country? So again, they would have to look at these. It's early stage 3. Which one of these is an early stage 3? Let's say they picked option 2. Oh, darn it, wrong again. So I gave them a demographic transition model to look at, and it's early stage 3, so they kind of look at, okay, early stage 3 has a very high birth rate still, but it's starting to come down. The death rate has dropped, it's very low, and actually getting close to starting to level out. Okay, all right, so then they take that information and they go back. Well, there's only 2 options anyway, so that doesn't, it's not that hard to figure out. But this is the shape that is in early stage 3, and they're correct. So early stage 3, high birth rate, but declining was the clue. And then they would continue going through here, answering the different questions. If you got it correct, you would write down the clue and move on. If you got it incorrect, there was some sort of a visual that would help you make a decision. In this case, pronatalism, urging people to have children was the wrong answer. So there was a little visual clue, and then they would go back and choose the other answer, which of course was now correct. And so they did this for each of the different units or topics that we talked about over the course of the year. At the end, they would come to a final question where they would type in their answer, hit submit, and then they were prompted to come back to the main meeting room in Zoom, and I was waiting for them, and they would tell me what their answer was. I mean, it was going to be in the spreadsheet, but they wanted to know whether they were right or not right away. And so they would tell me, and then I would tell them whether or not they were correct. And most of the time they were. They did a really good job on this. So this is what it would look like. from the teacher point of view, from what you would make. So started out with my directions and a place for them to put their member names. Pretty much everything has to be required, okay? Everything has the little red star. So everything is going to be a different section. That's why it looks so massive, 26 sections, because you can zoom from one section to another, but not within a section, okay? So here's our first question. I typed in the question. I wanted it to be multiple choice, so I selected multiple choice, and I put in the answer choices over here, and then you can tell it when you select the ellipses down at the bottom, you can tell it if you want it to go to a particular place based on the answer. So that's what you would pick. And so if they picked unitary, it would go to a certain section, okay? And I think I just wiped them out by clicking on that. So it would tell it where to go to the correct answer or the wrong answer. So if it was unitary or Confederate, those were the wrong answers, and so it would go to section 3. All right, so continue the next section. No, I want it to go to section 3, which I had labeled government incorrect, try again. So we're going to pretend like I did that on purpose. Federal was the correct answer, so I had conveniently for myself, for my sanity, labeled, created all the sections, labeled all of them, and then went back and did all the connecting. So this one is the correct answer. Confederate is the government incorrect answer. And then when I got to like government incorrect, whenever they came to this one, that meant that they got the problem wrong and they needed to go back to where they were. So I would click on the ellipses and I would tell where it would go to. Okay, I would tell it to go to, sorry, it's right here. I would tell it to go back to government. That's what I get for not practicing enough before I did this. If it was the correct answer, it would come to this, correct, and then after section 4, I would have it move on to section 5, demographics. And then there's the next question. I put it together with my multiple choice, and again, if they got it correct, they would go to demographics correct. If they got it wrong, they would go to demographics incorrect. And that's really all there is to it. The most intensive thing about this whole idea is you really need to plan it out ahead of time. You really can't go into this just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. You need to kind of map it out, create all the different things, and then you can go back in and plug in, well, if they get this correct, they go here, or when they get to this, they go here. And then it's just laying out the map. Right, so you just kind of work your way through. They went through all these different questions. We talked about development, gender equality, inequality, language, religion, agriculture. I did save the religion question for last because the language question told them that, the language of English was forced upon them by their colonizers. And then the religion question, the answer was Hinduism. And so everything put together with a large population and the religion and the language, then hopefully at the end they were able to tell me, based on the clues that they have collected, what was the name of the mystery country. They would type in the answer, and in case you were trying to figure it out, yes, the answer is India. Okay, so this is a way that you can use a Google form to create an escape room. Instead of having it be, if they get the correct answer, they go here, you can have them do a code. You can have them collect numbers and letters and plug them in. And if they plug in the correct number combination or letter combination, then it takes them to the next place, or it takes them back to a different place and tells them, sorry, wrong, try again. And just the same way that this one did the rights and the wrongs, okay? So that is how you can make an escape room using Google Forms. Pretty straightforward and simple.